I remind you that we aren't asking Council for any decisions today. Based on the fact you're receiving this for the first time, we'd be interested to hear any reaction, interpretation, and or further direction you'd like to give to us in developing the engagement process. But we expect to be back in front of Council likely next week with a decision-making timeline, process, and engagement strategy to support getting us to a referendum on this.
Weight data to make sure it matches the municipality in terms of where people live and ensure we have representation from all neighborhoods in the community. In this survey, we didn't have to do that weighting because we set hard quotas to make sure that we had a representative sample of residents from each neighborhood of the community. Overall margin of error on these results is plus or minus 4%, 4.4%. It's pretty clear from the results that the Johnson Street Bridge has a substantial community profile. People are clearly aware of the debate or the discussion that's going on in the community. However, in terms of top of mind, most important local issues, it's not the #1 issue. It's in the second tier of issues. A challenge for Council moving forward in this project is when we ask residents what kinds of things people value about the bridge and they think the city should take into account in reaching decisions, the public sees a lot of different variables that they want the city to take into account. It is a long list. 2 items, though, on that list scored quite a bit lower than the others in terms of importance, and that's keeping in mind the heritage value of the bridge and having a dedicated rail crossing. Start by talking about issue awareness and importance among residents of the city of Victoria. And there's a lot happening in the first slide that I've got here. But really, this is an open-ended question that we ask. In your view, what is the most important local issue facing your community? That is the one you feel should receive the greatest attention from your local leaders. And we let people answer up to 2 different items. And bridge issues, while they're certainly among the top level of issues, only about 1 out of 10 residents actually top of mind mention something related to the Johnson Street Bridge when asked to name their most important local issue. Based on what you've heard, what is the condition of the bridge that needs to be addressed? Top of the list, issues related to structural vulnerability, and I think that's mostly defined as rust and corrosion issues, needs repair, maintenance in general, and issues relating to it getting older, and it needs to be replaced. So a variety of different things that people are thinking about. Not only have they heard about the bridge, but clearly they are picking up information that's being discussed in it. Overall, I'd say this is an issue that a lot of residents know a little about. While we've got almost 2/3 of residents saying they're very or somewhat familiar, only about 14% say that they are very familiar with the condition and options concerning the bridge. Important access point for the community. It's an important part of our transportation network. And we also got a few comments. 2 in 10 respondents. It's important to them primarily because of its historic landmark action. We asked those residents, well, why don't you think the city needs to take action? 36% of those residents, so probably about 6% overall, said, I just don't think it's necessary. Some said, I just think that there are other issues that are more pressing in the community right now. And some said, look, we need to take time to do more assessment and research before moving forward in such a short. In fact, most residents are able to name a benefit. Interesting also that there's no real focus on one particular benefit. It's pretty clear from the number of benefits mentioned and the fact that not a single one dominates that residents as a whole see many different benefits to the replacement option. At the top of the list is that there's a perception that it'll last longer or be a longer term. The rehabilitation option, again, most residents, vast majority of residents, able to name some benefits. Unlike with the replacement option where residents mentioned many benefits, here residents focused on 2 specific benefits, a perception among some that it's going to cost less than the replacement option, and a portion of respondents, a portion of residents, almost 4 in 10, who say, you know, it's one of the benefits is it'll preserve a landmark and some of Victoria's heritage. So 2 focusy people who said it's very important or somewhat important. And you can see we've got a whole series of factors here that not only do most in the community, the vast majority of the community rate as important, but a majority rate as being very important. Having a dedicated pedestrian walkway. 7 in 10 in the community expect there will be contributions from other levels of government, and half expect that there will be some borrowing of money and or raising of taxes. That's what the public is expecting. Similarly, 7 in 10 residents say they want an opportunity to provide input to the City of Victoria about which option they prefer. So the business survey was a smaller sample. We ended up completing 225 telephone interviews. To the resident survey, you're going to see that even among businesses, the bridge project and the bridge discussion has a substantial profile. However, even to a greater degree than in the residential survey, this is not the top-of-mind issue for businesses. A variety of other issues are much more important on a top-of-mind basis for businesses, and the bridge issue actually slips very low in the overall scheme of things. If there is a full closure for a period of months, about 1/3 of businesses that we spoke to said that that would have a major impact on them. Other closure scenarios had much less of an impact. Some of the bigger ones they mentioned there, I don't think there's any surprises there. So cost and access are the two main concerns about the replacement option. For the rehabilitation option, again, half of residents, perhaps even more than half if you include the don't knows, see no benefit to their business from the rehabilitation option. At the top of the list is a perception perhaps that it's going to cost a little bit less than the other option. Some mentioning it might be faster, some mentioning it preserves the land. In terms of concerns with the rehabilitation option, 6 in 10 say they have no concerns with the rehabilitation option. Among those who do, the top two again are access, construction concerns, construction impacts. We presented a series of different scenarios. There's 4 of them here, ranging from full closure for a period of months down to nighttime closures. And we asked respondents whether it would have a major impact, moderate impact, minor impact, or no impact on their business. And I'll just focus for now on the blue, which is the major impact. Got 1/3 of businesses who say that full closure for a period of months would have a major impact. Less than half of that say partial daytime closures over a longer period would have a major impact. Even fewer for daily or hourly closures is required. Nighttime closures, much. In terms of the impact of noise and lights of nighttime work, big number. Most businesses, probably because they aren't open at this time, said that they don't think that will have any impact on them. Half saying they expect the city to borrow money, and 4 in 10 saying they expect the city to raise taxes. We also asked the question about, on an open-ended basis, what's your greatest concern related to the cost? Number one thing for businesses is I'm concerned that my taxes, my business taxes, are going to go up. And similar to residents, businesses were given a final opportunity to make suggestions and to give some thoughts to the City of Victoria on the issue. And similar to residents, most of them said, I said what I had to say, I've given my opinion, and I have nothing further to add. So very few things. Although I will point out, you may not have noticed in the other one, even though it's a small percentage, the number one thing for both businesses and residents in terms of what their final advice is advising the city to make the decision soon and get on with it.
Whether they be impacted by noise, lights, or nighttime work. Why did you not ask the residents that, just out of curiosity?
I think that was, staff could probably answer this question better than me, but it was a view that businesses were more likely to be impacted by this construction, and the residents would be more interested in talking about which option is chosen rather than the issue of construction would probably be handled at a later date with the public.
So, Kate, you want to touch that a bit, and then we'll come to Councillor Lucas.
Sure. Thank you, Your Worship and Council. We will now use this information to help better inform an engagement process leading us to a referendum in the fall.
Some disengagement based on these results by youth, and I use the term loosely because it's really 18-year-olds and 34-year-olds, and I found that this is, as you suggest, going to be a great guidance document, Katie, for further communication and outreach, and it seems to me that based on these results, we will have to focus communication to raise interest and awareness amongst bridge commuters who seemed uninformed about the impacts or the options and how that might impact their